Here are the Beatles. Here are the Beatles.
Every time the Beatles release an LP or a single, the pop music business usually changes direction. The changes instigated by their latest contribution, Abbey Road, will most certainly be noticed.
We had been very unhappy during Let It Be. Let It Be was a miserable experience. And I never thought we would get back together again. And I was quite surprised when Paul rang me up and said, we all want to make another record, will you produce another one for us? And he said, will you really produce it? I said, if I'm really allowed to produce it, I'll really produce it. If I have to go back and accept a lot of instructions which I don't like, then I won't do it. And Paul said, no, we really want you to produce it like you did used to. And once we got back in the studio, it really was nice.
Heading off the end, actually, off this new album called Abbey Road, which is where they record all their stuff in a studio in Abbey Road, you see, just north of London. And I went along there with my tape recorder, and I opened the door, and I said, at the moment, what are you devoting energy to, Johnny? At the moment, I'm devoting most of my energy to the Beatles LP forthcoming. Have you decided the title for it? Yeah. Yes, Abbey Road, it is called. Abbey Road, that's Beatles.
First of all, congratulations on another super LP from the Beatles.
I personally like it better than the last one that we did,
You do?
the double album, yeah. So I like the songs a bit better. I think it's more of an LP. It's very good.
Let's start with the first one, Come Together.
Together. It was one of the ones, one of the last ones to be recorded. One of John's songs. You know, John was in an accident, so he was off for a period of time, and then when he got back, which was only a week or so before we finished the album, we did this one.
The Come Together side is a fairly different song as far as the group's concerned.
Yeah, I don't know how that happened, you know, I mean...
Well, it was one of those tracks where we didn't know which way to do it at first. You know, we tried several ways, and then, like all our tracks, you know, we try them, and it didn't seem to work until we found this formula for it.
I think it's pretty funky, you know. I'm biased because it's my song. I dig it, you know.
Nice drumming from Ringo, and it's sort of a up-tempo, I suppose you call it, a rocker beat, a boogie, with very Lennon lyrics as well.
I've heard whispers that it will be the next American single.
No, if anything, it might be the B-side. I think we probably put Something out as a single out there. I think that's about the best track on the album, actually, George's track.
Something. I think it's, for me, I think it's the best he's written.
Towards the end of the Beatles album, you know, the White Album, I wrote it as we were still recording that album, but I never finished it off. I could never think of words for it.
And I think it's the best track on the album. It's not fantastic. It's something very different from what George Harrison has written before.
When I wrote it, I imagined somebody like Ray Charles doing it. It's, you know, that's how the feel I imagined, but because I'm not Ray Charles, then, you know, I'm sort of much more limited in what I can do. Then it came out like this. It's nice. It's probably the nicest melody tune that I've written.
Both George's songs on this LP are probably the most commercial he's written.
Yeah.
Is that a good or a bad thing?
I think it's very good, you know, because they're not sort of the good commercial, you know.
If you go through the LP from top to bottom, it's Paul's first contribution, Maxwell's Silver Hammer, which is I don't know, it's fairly typical of a lot of songs Paul's written, John, do you think?
Yeah, it's a typical McCartney sing-along or whatever you call them. No.
It's one of my story songs, and I think I'm kind of unique in the Beatles for doing them.
And Maxwell's Silver Hammer is just something of Paul's, which we've been trying to record it. We spend a hell of a lot of time on it.
I like the idea of making up people.
And this one was, like, I think the hardest track on the album to make. Yeah. Because we had a lot of trouble with it. I mean, this is the one we kept doing.
That was good because, you know, I had that synthesizer, and that's one of the tunes we use synthesizer on, which is pretty effective on this.
He did quite a lot of work on it. I was ill after the accident when they did most of that track, and I believe he really ground George and Ringo into the ground, recorded it, you know.
Oh Darling, to me, is another of Paul's songs, which is typical sort of 1950 to 60 period type of song, the chord structure and everything. It's really nice.
The next one, Oh Darling, is
Oh yeah, that's
a 58 job, isn't it?
yeah. Well, we like that stuff, you know. Oh darling.
Well, it's typical sort of 1955 type song, but this is more really just Paul singing. We do a few oohs in the background very quietly, but it's mainly Paul shouting.
So this probably ties in with your recent outing in Canada, where you really
the
got
rock
to
and roll revival, yeah.
Yeah.
It was fantastic seeing it.
Isn't this going to cause a sort of division in the group?
No.
I mean,
No, the thing is, John wants to do that, you know, and I think it's great, you know.
What actually happened there? Was this a regular rock and roll type concert?
Yeah, they had Chuck Berry, Bo Diddley, Jerry Lee Lewis, Little Richard, umpteen others, and the Plastic Ono Band, which is me, Yoko, Eric Clapton, Klaus Voormann, the Manfred Man, and Alan White from Alan Price, or ex-Alan Price.
See, I've just said I don't particularly like the idea of playing to those many people, but I'd hate to stop him doing it.
Yes.
I mean, he loves it. He did this Toronto thing and had a really great time. So I'd be the last person to say, well, you know, don't do it, because you've got to just do it with the Beatles and stuff. I think it's a great idea anyway. You know?
We made no plans to go to Toronto. A guy rang up, and I thought, who'll come and play live with me, you know? And they were the guys.
Is there any chance of the Beatles playing live again?
I don't know. There's always a chance, you know. But the Beatles playing live is a different matter, you know. We got that great thing to live up to. You know, it's a harder gig.
Octopus Garden is Ringo's song. Is the second song Ringo wrote.
I was just on the deck and the captain came out. He said, you know what octopus do? They find on the ocean bed pretty rocks and tins, actually, that have been thrown from other boats. And they put like a garden around them.
Actually, I think it's a really great song, because on the surface, it's like a daft kid song. But the lyrics are great, really. For me, you know, I find very deep meaning in the lyrics, which Ringo probably doesn't see. But all the thing like resting our head on the seabed and something we'll be warm beneath the storm, which is really great, you know, because it's like this level is a storm, and it's always, you know, if you get sort of deep in your consciousness, it's very peaceful. So Ringo's writing his cosmic songs without noticing.
I Want You, She's So Heavy.
Correct.
Right. I suppose it is the heaviest track on the LP, if we're going to get into that...
It's pretty heavy, the ending, you know. Could we use the Moog synthesizer on it?
Oh, that's what all that electronic
and it's the range of the sound is from, you know, minus whatever to way over where you can't hear it, you know. That machine, the Moog synthesizer, can do all sound, you know, all ranges of sound. So we did that on the end. So if you're a dog, you could hear a lot more.
It gets sort of, it is very heavy. And it's John plays lead guitar and sings the same as he plays. And this is good because it has, it's really basically a bit like a blues. The riff that he sings and plays is really a very basic blues type thing. But again, it's very original sort of John type song.
It was one of those beautiful spring mornings. I think it was April, and we were just walking around the garden with our guitars. And that was the thing. I don't do that, you know. I'd only ever do... This was what George brought to the situation. And the sun was shining, and it was a beautiful morning, and he started to sing. He started to sing Here Comes the Sun, and the opening lines, you know. And I just watched this thing come to life.
Here Comes the Sun, which is, again, another very catchy melodic song.
Yeah, it reminds me of sort of Buddy Holly in a way.
He comes into me because he'd been to India again, I think. He said, I've got this song. It's like 7.5 time.
Is there any... I don't suppose there is any reason for when people write songs, but it seems such a dramatic change for George.
I don't know, you know. I mean, it's just the way he's progressing. He's writing all kinds of songs, you know.
It was written on a nice sunny day this early summer in Eric Clapton's garden because we'd been through really hell with business, and, you know, it's very heavy. And on that day, I just felt as though I was sagging off, like, from school. It was like that. I just didn't come in one day. And just the release of being in the sun, and it was just really nice day.
And I like Because on the second side.
Because is one of the most beautiful tunes, and I think it's three-part harmony. John, Paul and George all sing it together. John wrote this tune. It's a bit like, the backing's a bit like Beethoven, and three-part harmony right throughout.
Why did you use the lyric "Turn Me On" and "Blow My Mind" in that particular song? I rather felt that sounded a bit passé in 1969 because it's been used so much in the past.
Yes, well, they were John's lyrics. If they'd been used just straight, if it had been "You turn me on, you blow my mind," okay, that would have been passé. But to say that because the world is round, it turns me on, is great.
I seem to detect some sort of classic overturn in this. Is this by design or...?
Yeah, sort of, you know.
I mean, Because, for example, very much a John song, but it needed the combined singing of the three men. So obviously it became a joint effort.
I think this is possibly my favourite one on the album.
It also had the harmony structure is also slightly different from some of the harmonies that you've used in recording before.
I wouldn't know, you know. I mean, I just asked George Martin or whoever's around saying, what's the alternative to thirds and fifths? They're the only ones I know. And he plays them on the piano. We say, oh, we'll have that one. You know.
The harmony was pretty difficult to sing it. We, had to really learn it.
Right. Well, this is also a very long song, isn't it?
It isn't, you know. It's only, it's amazing. It's the shortest one on the album. It's only about 2 minutes something.
Oh, well, of course, it sort of gets into the... I see what you mean.
It stops, and then he goes into the long, the medley. You know.
Ah, right.
And then the long one.
Oh, yeah.
The whole of the long one,
Yeah.
the whole of the end bit, I think that works good.
Then begins the sort of big medley of Paul and John's songs all shoved together.
The medley comes next on the LP, and this is really a sort of a whole piece of music joined. Repetitive phrases come back all the way through it.
Yeah. It was also a good way of getting rid of bits of songs we'd had for years, you know.
You Never Give Me Your Money. It does like two verses of one tune, and then it goes, the sort of bridge of it is like a different song altogether.
George and Ringo, in fact, sort of wrote bits of it as we did it, you know.
Came In Through the Bathroom Window is very good song of Paul's.
The bit, my contribution to it is Polythene Pam and Sun King and me and Mr. Mustard, so we just juggled them about till it made vague sense. And in Polythene Pam, me and Mr. Mustard, I said his sister Pam, and originally it said his sister Shirley in the lyrics, so I changed it to Pam and make it sound like it had something to do with it.
And Golden Slumbers, which they all these link up. Golden Slumbers is another very melodic tune of Paul's, which is very nice.
Scene with Paul and this piano.
Yes.
First part. Was this Paul on piano?
Oh, he's always on piano. You can't get him off.
Yes, a lot of people might be surprised that you sort of dared to take Golden Slumbers, the well-known lullaby, and give it a new variation. I enjoyed it very much, but what made you decide to do that? Because the Beatles have never done that before, have they?
No.
Taken another tune or lyrics?
No. Well, I'll tell you, I was just playing the piano in Liverpool, my dad's house, and my sister Ruth's piano book, she was learning piano, and you know those sort of with Do You Ken John Peel?
Yeah.
And Golden Slumbers and your old favourites, was up on the thing, you know, this stand, you know, there's a little book with all those words in it and stuff. So I was just flicking through it and I came to Golden Slumbers, you know. So I just started, because I can't read music, so I didn't know the tune. I can't remember the old tune, you know. So I started just playing my tune to it.
Carry That Weight is as if it's part of Golden Slumbers. In fact, Carry That Weight keeps coming in and out of it different times. And the end is just the end. It's just a little sort of sequence which ends it all.
And to finish it off, because everything has an end, or every album has an end, we did a track called The End, and it's, you know, it finishes it.
Side 2 of Abbey Road was very much my favourite. For evolving the symphonic idea. And John contributed to that a lot too. And we wed it together, and I think it's really one of my favourite works, the way it all blended in. And I think we were really getting somewhere. I don't think anything's been done quite like that.
You know, I think there's not a bad track on it.
I think it's a very good album.
And in choosing the cover, again, the Beatles took the easy way out. They thought, well, we're just a simple shot of us doing either walking in and out of Abbey Road studios or whatever. And someone had the bright idea, rather than actually walking into the studio, walking across the pedestrian crossing just outside the studio.
And they did it one day while we're recording there.
Paul, what about the future of the Beatles? Are you likely to go back on stage and perhaps do a show like that?
I don't know,
Does it
you know.
appeal?
I don't think so.
John, when you got this LP together, did you select from like a large number of tracks, or did you virtually have a, you know,
Not from a large number of tracks, from a large number of songs, you see. Each of us have got, you know, maybe about 10 songs to contribute to an album. You can't get them all on. So when it's your turn to record, as it were, you've got to sort of pick the one you want on most, really.
Do you have meetings still and talk things over, or do you just go your separate ways and get together when it comes around to recording?
Yeah,
are the Beatles still as much in contact with each other as they were?
We're not as much in contact with each other as we were when we were on the road every day, in the same van, in the same car, same dressing room. Obviously, we're not in that kind of contact. But I think Abbey Road shows that we're in contact.
Ringo's just completed a great album. Then John's doing an album, a Plastic Ono album. I think he's going to do that with Phil Spector. And I think Paul's doing an album where he's going to play all the instruments himself. If I get a chance, I'd like to do an album as well.
What about the image of the Beatles? Now, there's no doubt that the older generation who have been very for you, a lot of them have sort of started saying things like, oh, they're not like they used to be, what are they doing?
You know, we were sort of particularly nice. You know, we had like a very all-round appeal. It wasn't put on, you know, we were more like that, you know. But as we've grown up, you become more individual.
Well, each
Doing
Beatle's
your own thing.
doing his own thing at the moment, you know, and it's like it could be a rebirth or a death, you know, and we'll see what it is.